Today, Sony have released the new FX9, a very exciting new full-frame camera to sit above the FS7 Mark II in their lineup. Now this is a big move and a very important camera for Sony, so we will of course cover this in a lot more detail over the coming months. But for now, we've spent a couple of hours with the camera at Sony's offices in Pinewood Studios. We couldn't get any footage to show you unfortunately, but we can go over what we know so far. So the FX9 is all about this new sensor. It's a full frame 18.8 by 35.7mm sensor with a native 6K resolution of 6008 by 3168 pixels. But you can't record this 6K resolution. Instead, it uses that 6K to downsample down to get great quality 4K footage. Sony are saying the sensor has over 15 stops of dynamic range, and it has a dual native ISO of 800 and 4000. This will be a big difference to the FS7, which has a native ISO of 2000. And that's always been a little awkward. Too sensitive for daylight filming, but not quite sensitive enough for low light filming. So being able to choose between 800 and 4000 instead will make a huge difference for people. Sony are also saying they've brought the color science down from the Venice to the FX9. So hopefully we'll just get better color overall with this than we were used to from the FS7. The other big change with the sensor is its autofocus system. Sony have included phase detection pixels to bring their hybrid AF system to the FX9, which is a first for them in this style of camera. This is professional quality autofocus performance, and it's something you really need to use for yourself to fully appreciate its value. Sony have had decent autofocus performance for a while now on their smaller cameras, and Canon have been using their dual pixel AF system to great effect even on their highest end cameras. And it's an incredibly useful tool for professional video production, so it is fantastic to see Sony embracing it here on a high-end video camera. So those are the big changes with the sensor itself, but there are lots of physical changes to talk about as well. The body is slightly squarer than the FS7 was. It's the same shoulder-mounted design, but this change makes it easier to use when not on the shoulder, and to rig up when you need to. The handle has been redesigned as well, with a new connection to give more functionality and a quicker response time. The monitor is now 720p, so 1.8 times higher res than the LCD on the FS7, and it has those same two XQD card slots, so no change on the media side of things. The variable ND system remains the same in terms of functionality, going from 1/4 to 128th strength, but the whole ND system has had to be redesigned of course to cover that larger sensor. So this is now the world's first variable ND system for full frame cameras. One really nice touch here is that they now have clear glass in place when the ND is set to clear. And that means back focus remains constant whether you've got ND equipped or not. The XDCA back has now been redesigned for the camera as well, giving you much of the same functionality as the old one, although the FX9 now has timecode on the camera body itself, so it's not actually needed just for Genlock sync, which is very useful. Instead, this back gives you V-Lock, DTAP power, Ethernet, and now has slot-in ports on the top for audio units, which will be very welcome for those broadcast users. This new XDCA unit is also the way of getting RAW out of the camera. A future firmware update will enable 16-bit RAW output, along with some changes to what the camera can actually do internally. At launch you'll get UHD 4K, but not DCI 4K. That will come in this future firmware update, as will some higher frame rates for 1080p, things like that. So, this has just been our first look at the camera before it's actually shown at IBC for the first time. We'll see more there on the Sony stand, and of course have a much closer look at the camera when it becomes available after the launch. But for now, if you want to make sure you're on the pre-order list for the FX9, then head over to proav.co.uk. And of course, if you've got any questions about what's new, just let us know in the comment section down below. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.